not just for your family's sake, but for the families of all the victims the last few weeks. You're the first person to actually see something, so I need your help. Today on the Comic Book Report, Something is Killing the Children, Deluxe Edition Book 2 from Boom Studios. Stick around and check it out. Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today I'm back at it again with Something is Killing the Children. Today we're looking at the oversized hardcover Deluxe Edition Book 2. This contains the second full story arc from this incredible modern horror series, and wow, does it come in strong. I can't wait to dive into today's review because I'm pretty eager to talk about this collection. Before I do though, I'd just like to say a quick thank you to those at Boom Studios for sending over this copy for review. If you're interested in this or other Boom titles, definitely go to your local comic shops, definitely check online and pick up some of these releases. Okay, time for the review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume were written by James Tynion IV and penciled by Werther Dell'Edera. The comics in this volume were published by Boom Studios beginning in 2022. The volume itself collects Something is Killing the Children, issues 21 through 35. And finally, this is an oversized hardcover edition with glossy print paper stock, what appears to be sewn binding, and a total of 384 pages. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first look at today's oversized hardcover from Boom Studios. A beautiful, beautiful edition here. I'm happy to report it is basically identical to the Book 1 collection in this line, other than, of course, different colors, cover image, volume number, things like that correspond to the next volume in the series. I personally think the fidelity to the Volume 1, as far as the consistency here between the volumes, is worth noting and so exciting. I think where the first volume had a more purple or bluish hue or kind of centric color, this one definitely favors the kind of reddish orange, definitely more of an orange. Very, very cool. I really like the design here. I should say, like the Book 1, there is a slightly more prestigious edition of this same book that was released that's basically this exact book with a nice slipcase that this slides right into. I just have the oversized hardcover and I'm more than happy with it myself, but I thought I'd give options out there. There are, of course, also corresponding trade paperback volumes that collect these contents. I believe they're volumes 5, 6, and 7, if I'm not mistaken. It really is a beautiful collection though, and it's definitely an oversized edition, so this actually stands taller than a normal omnibus, if you're a fan of omnibuses from Marvel or DC, just so you are aware. And now for all you prospective collectors out there, I wanted to show a quick look at this book's binding. As I said earlier, I do believe this is a sewn binding, and I think this along with the Book 1 are probably the best hardcover bound books I've gotten from Boom Studios. I had zero issues with it altogether. Loved it. It laid down pretty flat, we got a good eye, and again, for me, no complaints. Before we jump into the collection itself, I thought I'd do a quick side-by-side with the Book 1 in these deluxe editions. I did do a full review of that book on my channel recently if you're interested in catching up, but I thought I'd do this side-by-side just so you could see what they might look like on a bookcase, for example. I really like it. Obviously, they have different color choices, but other than that, they are extremely uniform, and I just think they look really sharp. Here's some footage of the spines that I was referring to. Again, just some great uniformity here. I like the color choices even. I think they really pop. And again, these deluxe editions are really great for so many reasons. One of my favorite reasons is that each of them contain one full story arc of the main series. Okay, I think that's enough. Let's go ahead and dive into today's collection. Okay, and diving into the book proper, we have some nice slight designs on these end pages, followed by a title page, a 2-page kind of creator breakdown / publication information page, and then we're basically off to the races. We start with a chapter break, it says chapter 1, and then we jump right into the next issue in this sequence, which here starts with issue 21. Now, first and foremost, I want to address a question many are probably asking if you bought the Book 1 Deluxe Edition, which is, Book 1 ended on issue 15. This book, which is the Book 2, picks up on issue 21. Well, what happened to issues 16 through 20? That's a fantastic question, and I have the answer for that. Those issues, which are currently collected in the 4th volume of the trade paperback line, are basically the beginning of a prequel kind of flashback arc. And so basically we get a lot of kind of origins of Erica and things in the House of Slaughter, but those don't have a bearing directly on the main storyline quite yet. They are great to fill out the world, they're extraordinary issues, and I believe we will get a deluxe edition of some of the prequel material at some point in time. Don't quote me on that, but I think I heard that somewhere, because I know after this arc, I believe there are more prequel flashback based storylines. So anyway, we start with issue 21 here. Those couple issues are omitted from this deluxe edition, but hopefully we get oversized formats of those issues along with other prequel material at some point. But rest assured, they don't really impact the storyline here much at all, which is really fun. But I did want to go ahead and address that before we jump into today's work. So again, we start with chapter 1, which is issue 21 of the main series. And this picks up in New Mexico, in a really small town, basically kind of in the middle of nowhere, off these main roads, off these main freeways, and it's a town that's sort of drying up. There's a small sheriff's department, a couple sort of hot springs strewn about, and a lot of just people kind of at the edge of the world in many ways. And we start at the scene after another gruesome murder, and we get that kind of double page "something is killing the children" sort of moniker at the front, almost like a title sequence, and then we jump into this storyline. We have Erica showing up at the end of issue 21 in a really haunting, amazing way, confronting the little girl who survived this most recent string of murders at the hand of this really diabolical and interesting looking monster. So kind of like with book 1, we basically have Erica showing up on the scene after these events where there's monsters that are killing people or children or what have you, and of course she's trying to end the monster. But for Erica, like in book 1, things are a lot more complicated than just that, because in addition to gathering intel and trying not to make too many waves with local police department or people, she's also basically a rogue agent of the House of Slaughter, and her people really either want her back or want her ended or terminated. To that end, the people at House of Slaughter have commissioned someone from a different house out of country to basically come and kind of put out a hit on her, basically end her, kill her, and so she's basically being hunted throughout this volume as well. I really thought this was fun. I like the kind of mention of other houses other than the House of Slaughter, especially one that goes international. We basically have this character known as Cutter, who has her little dolly and is just super, super vicious. She, of course, is a monster hunter from this other house, but she's been hired as kind of a hit woman to take out Erica, unbeknownst to Erica, of course. So we have those different plot threads going on while Erica is trying to assist this young girl who survived this atrocity and basically trying to help this small town in the wake of these brutal slayings. An additional note I would like to make about this collection at this time as well, I mentioned it in my book 1 review, but if you've noticed, each issue begins with this kind of chapter break that says, chapter 1, chapter 2, and basically goes through chapter 15, which for here ends in issue 35, I believe. Anyway, this is what we get in lieu of actual covers between the issues in this collection, and unfortunately, we do not have covers at the back of this volume. We do have a handful of fun extras, but for whatever reason, the covers in both the Deluxe Edition Book 1 and 2 have been omitted. I hope we get some covers in some kind of other prestige format down the line, but it is worth noting that the covers are not present in this volume either. But switching back to the main story now, as I said, we are in New Mexico and there is a monster on the loose. And let me speak to that for a moment. The creature or monster we have in this volume is something known as a duplicitype, and essentially it's sort of a shapeshifter or doppelganger, and I really like how Werther Dell'Edera has him sort of formed in the beginning of this series. We kind of have this amorphous, faceless, kind of humanoid looking creature that also has like big eyes and like teeth, and it can kind of become this kind of more monstrous and abstract looking figure, but then it can come together as a person that just looks like a blank kind of mannequin or something. But we get this lore throughout these issues about this type of creature known as duplicitype, which basically the more it kills, the more it eats, the more it hungers and grows. It becomes better and better at assuming people's form and shape-shifting, and it gets more uncanny or hard to recognize, and I really liked that setup. I think for me it added this kind of ticking clock layer to the storytelling, because you have this creature that the longer it takes takes to apprehend it or kill it, the more it becomes stronger and harder to find, basically harder to point out and say, yes, this is it over here, this is its pattern. So there's this urgency that we have to stop it, not only to, obviously save more people and stop more victims, but also to keep it from growing too strong. And I really like that. They also kind of insinuate that these things are very hard to kill, much harder to kill than the creature we had in the first book, and we have Erica really strapped for resources. In fact, she's been kind of excommunicated from a lot of people in the House of Slaughter, so she reaches out to an old friend. This old friend, I think, might have been introduced in those couple issues not included, so I guess there is a bit of a tie there, but kind of an old friend who has himself sort of retired from the House of Slaughter, but still has a bunch of connections. At any rate, Erica reaches out to him for assistance and kind of intel, and he's going to basically try to get as much resources to her as he possibly can. We have her, again, kind of a rogue agent from the House of Slaughter. We have people trying to connect with her or contact her, and she has just completely tried to be off the grid, off the radar, and I like that. It's basically like she's doing all this work without any kind of backup whatsoever. On the other front, we have a bunch of new characters. Similar to book one, we basically have a new town, so a bunch of fresh new faces. We have a town sheriff who's never really pushed himself to excel at too much. He's trying to just do the best he can in a small town, and now he has a string of really grisly murders. We have this interesting figure showing up in town, and they don't really know what to do. We also have, of course, the young girl who survived this horrible attack, who's now kind of in custody of her dead older sister's ex-lover. It's kind of a complicated kind of relationship there, but she sort of had nowhere to go, and so she's kind of in her care for now. Of course, this woman has such a deep affection for her because she's kind of her remaining link to her ex-paramour, and that person died earlier of like cancer or something unrelated to these murders. But anyway, these characters are really enriched and fun and layered, and this is, again, I mentioned this in my volume 1 review, but I love what Tynion does here. It feels really incredible to get this whole new fresh cast of supporting characters to care about, get to know, and see develop in their way across these storylines. The way these arcs are set up, it reminds me of the best of something like X-Files or Supernatural for TV fans out there, where you have the main characters, Scully and Mulder, or the Winchester boys, depending on what franchise you're referencing here, but they roll into town where things are going awry. There's some kind of paranormal or creature thing happening, and they have to get intel, talk to the locals, and try to stop this thing before they roll out of town to the next adventure. And that's really what this series feels like in so many ways. And in those series on TV, X-Files or Supernatural, I think the strength of some well-written episodes is when I see all of these other characters that pop up for maybe 1 or 2 episodes and end up just being really great and part of the mythos. And that's really what I feel like Tynion and Dell'Edera are doing in this franchise, where the characters from book 1 are really not in this volume, other than Erica and a couple members of the House of Slaughter. In the same way, I don't know how much carryover there's going to be from this book, perhaps a bit more, but I just like that we have a whole fresh group of faces here, and I think Tynion does an excellent job of crafting these characters. I do also like that we get even more development for Erica. She is so kind of at a loss here. She has no resources. She gets kind of injured. She takes a bite to the hand from this horrible Duplicit type character early on. She gets beat up, banged up, has to be bandaged up and saved, and she's just at such a low point. And on top of that, you have a hit woman coming to kill her. She is just on the ropes. One of the things I believe this book 2 elevates from the previous volume is that I really think the creative team here has hit its stride and feels so comfortable in their own skin, telling these kinds of stories with this main character and kind of the feeling or the world they're presenting. I also think it's really amazing to see, with all the same team included here, how much diversity we get in some of the art style. Not only seeing this new creature that can shapeshift and have all this teeth and move in ways that those shadow creatures from the first book couldn't, but also that we have all of these other supporting cast of characters that obviously look different. But I think for me, it's really the world building or the setting that really shows some of the development with the art. I say development, but maybe I mean something closer to range in art. I think where the other town was kind of a woodland and kind of bluesy and cool color palettes, this we're in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico, kind of desert. So we have a lot of kind of warmer color palettes and, kind of pinks and browns and peaches, and I really, really like it. It's interesting to see all the same kind of pencil work, same familiar characters and tropes, but done in a really new way. New settings, new colors, and I think it just adds just so much range for these artists and what they were able to do. I think the world building in this series is really top notch, and I think that that's absolutely commendable, especially now that I see further story arcs from the same team. I will say I was maybe not as engaged narratively with this arc as I was the previous volume. I think the mystery that kind of surrounded this series at its inception really hooked me a bit more than this subsequent effort. However, that is not by much. Honestly, this is still amazing. It's still going on full cylinders. I know people that prefer this story arc to the book one, and I think that there's a really good argument for that as well. Anyway, now let's go ahead and go back to some of the plot bits on this book. We have Erica with the survivor of the original murders, along with her kind of de facto guardian figure, trying to hunt down this duplicitype. We have Erica trying to get more information, trying to dodge the sheriffs, kind of under the guise that she's a reporter for this, this town. There seems to be some kind of media blackout too. We don't really have a lot of other law enforcement coming in, but then out of nowhere comes Agent Cutter, trying to pretend to be a member of Interpol, is trying to research the serial killer. She basically tries to pin it on Erica, saying that Erica is the serial killer in this small town, which the sheriff believes. And we have Cutter kind of capture the duplicitype and help change him to look just like Erica Slaughter. This was a really fun wrinkle as well. I think it upped the tension just unbelievably. And at this point, we have Cutter and Erica on a collision course. Cutter goes off the rails and murders most of the people in this small precinct at the sheriff's department, and kind of pins that on Erica as well. So everyone's after her. Cutter and Erica are trying to have a kind of final bout. They're trying to figure out a way to kill the duplicitype, which ends up looking like a poisoning of some kind with a certain chemical. We found this out by way of a member of the House of Slaughter who initially helped out with the hit, but is now trying to save Erica, believing she's more of an asset than this Cutter woman who's also causing problems in their overall monster hunting organization, whether here or abroad. Anyway, a lot of moving pieces here. It ends up with a climactic final battle where Erica has to stop the duplicitype while also stopping her hitwoman. In the middle of all of this, things go really sideways. The young girl is poisoned instead of the monster after an arrow from Erica misfires. This ultimately leads to the girl kind of suffering and ultimately kind of sacrificing herself to help aid with the defeat of the duplicitype. However, her kind of de facto guardian said if anything happened to her, she will just absolutely kill Erica. So we have this kind of stinger at the end of this volume with this idea that she is now hunting for Erica. We also have a final battle between Cutter and Erica Slaughter. Cutter pries out the bit that she has implanted in the side of her head that lets her see monsters. So that happens right before they kill the duplicitype. So all of a sudden Erica can't even see the monsters anymore because she's an adult, and without the aid of that, she's just like anyone else who cannot see the monsters. Anyway, they stop Cutter. The de facto guardian character is after Erica, and Erica is just on the move again, and perhaps more broken than ever. And that's kind of where the series leads us with this book 2 thus far. At the back of the book, as you've just seen, we have a section of special features known as From Script to Page. We get to see some script excerpts and some outlined kind of paneling and things. This is really fun if you like to see how the soup is made or how the sausage is made or whatever that phrase is. I like to see a little bit behind the curtain, and I thought this was a really fun extra. I would have loved to see more extras, and I absolutely would have loved to see the issue covers, whether in between the issues or back here in the back in the form of a cover art gallery. But I am still happy we got some form of extras here, but that is the end of the collection. This has been Something is Killing the Children, the Deluxe Edition, Book 2. There's honestly so much more I can say about this collection, but I wanted you to read it for yourself. And now I think all that's left to do is to give this book a grade. For another exceptional entry in the Something is Killing the Children franchise, this second story arc contained in this book 2 is riveting. I may have just slightly preferred the book 1, but this was definitely not a bad effort. I really liked the storyline. I think the characters were interesting, engaging, perhaps just as much so as those seen in book 1. I think the art maybe took a level up here as I got to see more range from this creative team and all of these new environments and settings. I think think this series is definitely not one to be missed, particularly if you enjoy the horror genre within the comic book medium. Tynion and Dell'Edera are really going on all cylinders here. For this and so many other reasons, the Comic Book Report is happy to give Something is Killing the Children Deluxe Edition Book 2 a B+. This was a really fun one, you guys, but let me know what you think in the comments. Have you been reading Something is Killing the Children? What about the spin-offs? Have you picked up these deluxe editions? What else do you like reading from Boom Studios? Let me know all of that and more in the comments section. I can't wait to read them, maybe get some recommendations. A huge thank you again for everyone who's made it this far, and a big thank you to Boom Studios again for sending the copy. Until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to give this video a like, that comment we talked about, and maybe check out another one of my videos. Thanks, bye.